Welcome to Year 6's Maths Learning for Thursday the 7th of January. Today we're going to look at how we can find equivalent fractions, decimals and percentages. On this slide we've got the fraction 2/5. So thinking back to our learning from yesterday, I'm going to give you a moment to think about how you would convert this fraction into a percentage. Now if I were to draw this fraction out, I've got my numerator, 2, and my denominator, 5. Now, in order to make an equivalent fraction over 100, we need to do something to the denominator. So, we know yesterday from our learning that 5 fits into 100 20 times. So we're going to multiply that by 20. Now remember, whatever we do to the denominator, we need to do exactly the same to our numerator. So 2 and multiply that by 20, and that will give us 40 over 100. So we know our numerator then becomes our new percentage. So 40%. But what if you can't convert a fraction into an equivalent fraction that has a denominator of 100? So that last example was nice and easy. 5 fit into 100 nicely, but sometimes not all numbers fit neatly into 100. So if we're going to do that, what we need to do is make sure that we convert our fraction into our decimal first, and then we try and make our percentage. So thinking about how we would do that, we've got a question here of 3/8, a fraction of 3/8. How would we go about making that into a percentage? Okay, so we've got our 3/8. Now, what we need to think about is that fraction line in the middle. That fraction line that separates all numbers, something up here and something down here, that basically just means a divide. That gives us our divide symbol. So what we're really doing with this question is we're writing out a division question. So we're going to say, what is 3 divided by, excuse me, my pen, still getting used to using this pen. What is 3 divided by 8? We need to try and answer that question. Well, it's quite tricky to do in this format here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it into a bus stop method. So let's write the bus stop out underneath. And then I'm going to, remember we're dividing the 3 by the 8. So the 3 goes inside our bus stop. The 8 is going outside the bus stop. So we need to think, how many times, does 8 go into 3? Well, it doesn't fit into 3 at all. It's far too big, so that's no times. What we need to do in that instance then is we need to put our decimal point in, and we make sure whatever we do below goes also above. And we need to put a placeholder in as well, 0. And then we need to carry over or exchange that 3 into our next column, into our tenths column. Now, how many times does 8 fit into 30? Well, if you're not quite sure about your 8 times tables, let's try writing them out. We'll take it slowly. So we've got 8, 16, 24, 32, and 40, and I'm going to stop there because the number I'm trying to get into is this one here, 30. And I've gone past 30 by the time I hit 32. So how many times does 8 fit into 30 neatly? Well, it's 1, 2, 3 times. So I know it goes in 3 times. But my difference now between 30 and this one here of 24, there's still some numbers left over, and I need to do something with those. So I need to add another placeholder, and I now need to exchange those remaining numbers. Now the difference between 24 and 30 is 6. So now I'm going to try and do another calculation of how many times 8 fits into 60. Well, I've already started my times tables on this side, and I've gone up to 40 already, but let's continue because I need to try and work out how many times it fits into 60. So after 40, I've got 48, then I've got 56, and then I'll have 64. So again, here I've gone too far because I'm trying to only get into the number 60. So how many times does it fit into 60? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It goes 7 times. But I've still got some remaining because I'm trying to get to the number 60, and this is giving me the number 56. So I need to add another placeholder. Now the difference between 56 and 60 is 4. So now I'm going to try and fit 80 into 40. Now if I have a look on this side here, I can see how many times it fits into 40 because it fits nice and neatly there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. So my answer to what is 3 divided by 8 is actually 0.375. So I've converted my fraction into a decimal number. Now, I can't stop there because I need to find what it is as a percentage. So what I need to do is take my decimal number and I need to multiply it by 100. So I'm going to have 0.375, multiply that now by 100. Now just to help me, I'm going to write out my place value table. So I'm going to have my tens, my ones, my decimal place, my tenths, my hundredths, and my thousandths. Now underneath that, I'm going to write in my no ones decimal point, my 3 tenths, my 7 hundredths, and my 5 thousandths. That's my number here, 0.375. Now when I'm multiplying by 100, you can see I've got 1, 2 zeros on the end of 100. What that means is, when I'm multiplying, I'm making this number here, my 0.375, I'm going to make it move 2 places on my place value chart, sorry. So that means that just change colour of my pen, my 3 is going to move 1, 2 spaces on my place value chart. So my 3, where it was a tenth, now becomes 3 tens. And likewise, my 7 hundredths is going to move 2 spaces, 1, 2. So that's now going to become 7 ones. My decimal place doesn't move at all, it still stays the same. And my 5 thousandths, again, is going to move 1, 2 place values, and it's going to become 5 tenths. So my new number is 37.5. So answering this question up here, 0.375 times 100 equals 37.5. Now, how do I convert that now into a percentage? Well, I simply write 37.5 and make that my percent. So I've now converted my 3/8 as a fraction, firstly into a decimal number, and then multiplied it by 100 to make a fraction. So I convert to a decimal, and in order to do that, I divide the numerator by the denominator. That's step 1. Then I take my answer, and step 2, I multiply it by 100. And then my last step, 3, my answer is added in front of a percentage sign. And there I have my percentage. Just like to pause the video now and just think about how you would use that same technique to answer 4/6. How are you going to make 4/6 a percentage? Okay, so let's have a look at what we did before. Step number 1, we're going to take our numerator and then we're going to put that over the top of our denominator. Now remember what we did last time. We need to divide 4 by 6. And we need to find the answer to that question. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put that into a bus stop. I'm going to draw my bus stop over here. Excuse me, I don't have a ruler on there. And I'm going to put my 4 inside the bus stop because my numerator goes inside. And we are dividing the 4 by 6. So my denominator is going outside the bus stop. Now, I need to think, how many times does 6 fit into 4? Well, it doesn't because it's too large. So I'm going to need to put my decimal point there and then put in a placeholder in my tenths column. Now, the number I haven't used yet is 4. It has not been used, so I need to make sure I transfer it, or I exchange it, sorry, into the tenths column. Now I need to think, how many times does 6 fit into 40? Now again, if you're not quite sure about your 6 times tables, let's write them out to the side and let's think how many times that would work. So I've got 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, 36, and the next one would be 42. Now I'm going to stop there because again 42 is too large. I'm trying to get it into 40. So how many times did it fit before it went over 40? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So I write in 6 there. Now again, I've got 36 at the moment, and I need to get to 40. That means I've got some numbers left over. So I need to put a placeholder in again. And how many numbers do I have over between 36 and 40? Well, there's 4. And some of you will have noticed something happening already. So I've got to fit 60 now, 6 into my new 40. Well, I've just done exactly that. I know it goes 6 times. So I've got 6 times 6 is 36. That means I need to just extend my bus stop out very slightly. That means I'm going to have another 4 left over. And I've got another 40 to fit it into again. And I know that 6 fits into 40 6 times. Now I'm going to have another 4 left over, and it will be the same answer again and again and again and again. So I could write these 6's out until the end of time, and I would have no change to the number. Okay, the number is 0.666. Now, step number 2, I've now divided my numerator by my denominator, and I've got a decimal number. My decimal number is 0.666. Now, to create that into a percentage, I need to multiply that by 100. Okay, now again, let's just put our place value numbers in so that we can use these to help us work out where all the numbers go. I'm just going to change the color just so that they don't get too confused. So my answer was 0.666. I've got no ones, 6 tenths, 6 hundredths, and 6 thousandths. Now remember what we did last time. I've got 1, 2 zeros on my 100. So I'm going to need to move my numbers 1, 2, place values to the left. So my 6 tenths is going to become 6 tens. My 6 hundredths is going to move, 1, 2 places to my ones. It's moved into my tens, and then it's moved into my ones column. So I now have got 6 ones. Don't forget that decimal point, it never moves. And now my 6 thousandths are going to move 1, 2 spaces, and so they are going to become my 6 tenths. So my answer to 0.666 times 100 is now 66.6. Now to convert that into a percentage, all I do is take my 66.6 and put a percentage sign at the end. So what I'd like you to do today is have a look at your questions that are on the screen. You can see that question number 1 here, I'm just going to label it. Question number 1 says match the equivalent fractions, decimals and percentages. So here I've got a fraction, and I'm going to need to say 15 over 100. Is that the same as 0.05, 0.5, 0.2 or 0.15? So once I've selected which one of those it's the same as, I'm going to need to think, well, what does that become as a percentage? Is that 5%, 15%, 50% or 20%? So you might have to do a little bit of maths on this side in order to create your decimal numbers and therefore to get your percentages. So think about what we've just done in the tutorial this morning. On this side here, you've got, sorry, let me just label that as number 2. You've got a column which says fraction, a column which says decimal, and a column which says percentages. Now the very, very first one has got 0.21. So it might be easier to start by making that into a percentage. But you need to think, how am I going to then convert it backwards to make that a fraction. Here, you need to start with your percentage one, and you need to find the decimal and the fraction. Here, you need to start with your fraction, and you need to make it a decimal and then a percentage. And then here we can go back to the same pattern. We're going to start with our decimal and find the fraction and percentage. So you look very carefully at that table and think about how you're going to complete both ways. Remember, if you're going backwards, you've probably got to do the reverse operation. Number 3, down here, says match the decimal cards to the people. So all the people down here are saying something, and you've got to say whether they are this one, this one, this one, or this one. It's just a question of drawing a line. You might need to do some maths to do some working out to help you. And question number 4 over here, you've got to use these cards along here to write a decimal in this space below that is greater than, so it's got to be greater than 1/5, but less than 40%. Now you're going to need to work out what that could possibly be. You may not use a card more than once each time. If you finished those questions, I've got a bit of a challenge for you because some children will find that a little bit easier than some other children. So if you think that that was okay and you could cope with that, I'd like to have a look at this. This is actually a question off of a SATs paper, and it will give you an idea of some of the things you're going to need to do in order to convert fractions to percentages. So here we've got a shape that's made up of cubes. What you need to think about is how many black cubes there are, how many white cubes there are. And see if you can write that as a fraction first. Then change the denominator to hundredths, and that will make it easier to convert into a percentage. And lastly, I've got one more reflection or one more extension for you guys to have a look at. If you think that that was quite an easy thing to cope with, there's a problem here about a cat who sleeps for 12 hours a day and 50% of his life is spent asleep. You need to write the missing percentage in the box below where it says a koala sleeps for 18 hours each day. So what percentage of its life is spent asleep? Good luck.